Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ecosystem Aces. Looking forward to a great session today. I'm really excited to be talking with Tony Lee. Tony is VP of America's Partners and Global SIs at Starburst Data. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you, Chip. Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. So really, excited to chat. You're also here in the Bay Area, Tony, and I know you've been with Starburst Data for about three and a half years, something like that, and then
Yeah, actually just crossed 3 years a month ago. Yeah,
that's great.
it's been a ride.
And then prior to that, ThoughtSpot and Medallia, and
That's right.
longtime, partner leader, and so I think we'll have a lot of good things to chat about today.
Yeah, cool. Looking forward to it.
Good. Well, why don't we start, Tony, with what you and your team are up to at Starburst Data?
Yeah, sure. So Starburst, let me see, we're now been around since 2017, 2018 as the main company behind the open source project Presto Trino that's built at Facebook to power big data analytics, and then used by the massive internet companies. But what we've been up to, it's a great question. We've been growing a lot. We've grown a lot in the last, uh, several years when the company saw the opportunity to take the same technologies that some of these tech forward companies are using to really apply it to enterprise data. So we've been focused on that. As part of it, that's how actually we started the partner team here, because within the enterprise space, we found that partners are just so critical to driving adoption for new software, how to deploy it, how to understand it, and how to run them, over time, especially as they rationalize, new technology versus old. So, particular for Starburst, right now we're doing two things. Recently we launched an appliance with Dell. Super exciting there. They've decided to adopt our technology as their data lake. Where Dell's a strategic partner for us, and we have a very similar world vision, which is data is everywhere. And a lot of that is in the cloud. Some of that probably need to stay on-prem. Some of it need to be secured. And with Dell, we're going to have essentially a complete solution that's, seamless, that customers can deploy, that has Starburst on it, but running at cloud and data lake house performance, but on-prem within your own premises. So that's super exciting.
Mm.
Yeah. So the other thing we're super excited about is we recently launched this concept called Open Icehouse. It's a play on words from the things we represent. Being coming from the open source, we some of the core values we hold for ourselves and our customers is optionality, interoperability, and then just reducing vendor lock-in for customers to be able to access and do the things they need to do with their data. And what we're seeing is that there's a convergence on uh, using data lake as a key part of your architecture strategy to power your analytics or AI initiatives. Why? Because it's just super flexible as a way to sort of architect your data. And Iceberg, as a part of it, has become really the open standard that we feel very strongly about, and have been working with them on. So with that, we've launched, as core part of our strategy as well as our product, to be the open ice house, as we call it, that allow you to have data warehouse like performance, but with your data stored in Iceberg. So I would say those are the two really exciting things we're doing. Amongst the other sort of things you have to work through to build a company.
Well, that's so that sounds like a really strategic partnership there with Dell, and let's talk a little bit about some of your Starburst Data's technology partnerships. what are the different kinds of partnerships that you're managing? I mean, technology partnerships, cloud, SI partnerships. It's in your title. So.
Yeah, that's a good question. The three types of partners we work with um, are we break out the clouds a little bit just because they're so important to the makeup of our capability as well as our customer adoption. So we have clouds, which for us is we work with Amazon, we work with Google, and we work with Microsoft as the
Mhm.
three main clouds
Yeah.
today. And then on the technology side, we work with a set of really, for us at Starburst, it's as we're a startup, we really partner with a couple of I would say like-minded startups and ISVs who are also in the data space, but provide a very complementary product experience
Hmm.
to people using Starburst. And this is people
Mhm.
like Muta, Tableau, Vast, Calibra, things of the like. They sort of help to address a problem together with Starburst for our customers. And then for the SIs, we I know some partners may not regard themselves as an SI, but generally speaking, SI is for us is anybody who sort of provides services, value added services for
Mhm.
customers through people and experience and their knowledge. So this includes your global system integrators like the Accentures and Deloittes, the Capgeminis of the world, but
Mhm.
it also includes very specialist partners who are built in the data space, like a user ready, or others who are really great at providing training and people for scaling out a team. Like for us, it's a company called Kubrick. Um, and as well as your traditional value added resellers who are in many of the large enterprises and helping them to adopt their technology easier. So we all group that into SIs, but those are I would say the three buckets of partners we we build we build and sell with and love working with them today.
Yeah. Well, and the VAR community. It's interesting that you sort of categorize VARs within the services industry, and I think that's where VARs are going these days, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like CDW as an example, just to they have a services team now, right? Ahead as an example, also heavy on services. So yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's just where the market is going. It's where you'll find success is where you provide value, and I think a lot of these companies have been doing that and can do more of that, and do a really good job of it.
I love that. I love that that phrase. Where you'll find success is where you provide value. So that's really interesting. And I'm curious also about some of the technology partners that you work with that are they're also, as you mentioned, they're also in the data space, but they have complementary offerings. How does
Yeah.
that how do you find that to work? Where do you identify partners that where that makes sense? Sometimes there's potential challenge of sort of co-opetition in different areas. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a great question. Um, I think two thoughts come to mind. Maybe as you're talking about is sort of how to, at least from our perspective,
Yeah.
there are two things we've have sort of been part of our philosophy for those partners. One would be I will call this like a constellation approach to that partnership. Is that it's not so much about a individual partner per se, but
Hmm.
oftentimes these partnerships are happening with ISVs because of a common narrative we
Mm.
are adopting together. For us today is Icehouse, right? And there are a number of partners that fit into that narrative that work really well and become part of this open paradigm that drives analytics on the data lake, help us to drive analytics on Iceberg and things like that. Um, it's a little bit new, so I'll pick another one. But like in maybe 2 years ago, we started to kind of be the engine behind data mesh. With as part of that, there are a number of partners that we worked really well with, like Immuta, who provided security policies that really fit nicely, and then obviously the BI tools. Some of them were much more open to data democratization, naturally played into this sort of common narrative, and as part of that, they become really good fit as an IS, because we end up selling to the same problem, so to speak, right? Companies are buying us. I like to say buy us for us, but they really buy us to solve a problem. So and quite naturally from some of that, we figure out who are the right people to work with. I know the second thing I would say is, when we look at these ISVs, it's it might be a cop out to say this, but kind of we also have to find the ones that are culturally aligned, and that's a very means a lot of things. But I think the best evidence of culturally aligned partner would be ones that are share a common vision, are committed to partner with us in a particular way, that we both kind of work well together, because sometimes you have different approaches to how you run things, right? And then finally, just it's the evidence with customers, is evidence that we can successfully go try things out at a customer and successfully help them adopt. And that usually ends up becoming within some of these categories, there's one or two partners who really rise above the rest and can become a really great partner for us within our ISV system.
Interesting that that's kind of how you I love your sort of explanation of how do you choose which partners to work with, just kind of having a common vision, common culturally aligned, and all that. How do you identify partners? Just sort of the overall category is building your partner ecosystem. How do you think about growing your ecosystem of partners, and do they typically come, or for Starburst, have they come through sort of requests from customers, or just you're going out into a new space and want to bring in new partners, or geography, or what are
that's a good question. I think the best North Star to building your partners would be your customers, truly. That's the end we all want to be at, which is these partners are value adding in the process, in however form, sales process, in services, in adoption, transformation, they end up helping there. So as part of that usually means, that goes back to why the three categories of partners what we have, right? The tech help us to have a complete product experience for our customers. And that a lot of times, comes through the experiences we have with prospects and meetings with them. Here's what you need. Here's what we're looking for. Some of it, as well as a product team, just on where you compete with vendors who are maybe you're trying to disrupt, who have a slightly more complete set of tools, but to go into complement to be versus build over time, right? So there's that angle. But I think the customer approach really works for all your partners, and that's the one we've really taken for I will say our SI community and our clouds, right? I think the clouds is pretty simple. Everybody know it these days, that if you want to be successful in enterprise, you really have to have a strong cloud strategy. Why? Not because they're so big, but really the reason why is every customer in some ways is standardizing on a cloud or a set of clouds, and they want to have you be interoperable with them. And also on the financing side, they've allocated a set of budget towards these massive clouds already. They want to know that your service can come out of the things already planned, right? So that's probably as simple as it gets to why we need to partner with them. For the SIs, for us, it's going back to that. It's about who are we touching as the customers, and who do we need to impact. So some of our work goes up to the executives because of how important it is from a TCO perspective, and how it's transforming the organization because of data access, uh, and which is why we partner with people like Accenture and Deloitte, because they are fantastic at the C-suite, at the LOB executives, to guide them through that process, to say, not just how you turn on Starburst and how you customize it, but how do we help you navigate the 3-year migration you're going to have onto a multi-cloud or a hybrid cloud scenario with Starburst, or how do you sort of do that, and how do you go do that successfully with your across your entire organization? They've been incredibly impactful in that way. And then you look at other partners who may operate more at the departmental level. There's sort of that do that as well, and they're really great at knowing some of the industries. They come in at a more competitive price point to the Accentures and Deloittes, right? Not every customer is going to want to pay a rate for every service, right? So, and those partners become really great at actually say the implementation of some of these projects, or the managed service of Starburst ongoing with some of these accounts. So that's been our approach, and as we look at where we have softness in our customer adoption, we continue to find, to bring in our existing partners to address that, or recruit new ones to help us to speed up that with our customer base.
It's great. Gosh, I love sort of how you talk through all the different kinds of partners and the value that each brings to the equation for ultimately delivering value to customers. So it's terrific.
Awesome.
On the let's talk a little bit about co-selling, and kind of going to market with the partners. So you've got your partners in place. They each sort of have their own value that they're bringing. And when you close business together, then it's a win-win for everybody, right? You've got the underlying data technology. You've got some, maybe an ISV providing some additional technology capabilities. You got the service provider that's delivering a lot of times maybe 3, 4, 6x the number of the license revenue. So everybody wins, right? How do you think about sort of and maybe even from the full life cycle of starting with like going to market together, co-marketing, enablement, and then co-selling, getting the sales teams to work together?
So Chip, meaning like how do we help these partners to co-sell with us?
Yes. Yeah. Put simply.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on it just now. And I think that's the most important thing, is enablement. There's a phrase we use within our team, which is enablement is the portal to productivity. When I first heard it, I was like, gosh, who came up with this? This is brilliant. So, and that's been, what we see with our partners as well, right? Assuming kind of we're aligned and this joint commitment to go after particular set of problems together, work together, all those things, kind of you get out of the way in the beginning, just to assess if this is the right sort of, should we do this together type of thing, right? Should we go invest in resources? Beyond that, I think enablement is just so critical to that process. And there are partners that sell around us, so us enabling them is really important, both from a technology standpoint, where they understand how to best deploy this for the customer base, which is, I think, the simple one. But one that's sometimes being forgotten, I think it's super key as well, is sales enablement, is the messaging, and how they sell a tool. They may not end up selling it the way the ISV wants it to. That's how we often find, but it's important for them because a lot of these partners are advisors within their clientele, and they all have their own interpretation of how your tool or how the startup fits in. Um, but it's key for them to understand that differentiation so that they can properly advise their customers.
Hmm.
And then, I mean, the other part of co-selling, I would say, is, I think maybe more true with ISVs and others is like joint solutions and joint offerings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because a lot of these other ISVs ultimately they will sell their product first, um, and having a joint solution to between the two products on what you address together becomes the commonality of what you end up selling.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a definition of that as part of the partnering process, and then following that, right? I think we would enable the both teams in most cases on how does this fit into the strategy, what does it address, how do you get your salespeople trained on it, how do we go demo this, how do we go deploy this, and things like that.
That's great. So it's having the right joint solutions defined well, figuring out what your messaging is, what your joint messaging is, and then making sure that the sales teams and everybody, right, sales and delivery teams are all enabled on the messaging, the capabilities, the differentiators, and so that everybody's armed, can go arm in arm, right, to take on the market.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
yeah. Great. So how about how do you uh, just a bunch of topics we could talk about, but I'm curious about the how do you measure all this, right? How do you measure success with partnerships,
Yep.
both your own partnering the team that you're leading, and then also sort of how do you measure by partner how partners are which partners are being successful and yeah.
Yeah. There's three categories we measure. One is training, just because it's that important. Training for us is the leading indicator to, in some ways, a lot of things. How invested a partner is, and how educated they are, or knowledgeable, I should say, around
Hmm.
the product and its use cases. And we break it down by, as most basic level would be sales and technical training. But you could always look at the giants before us, at people like Salesforce, just the massive training program for that same
Hmm.
reason, just so
Hmm.
important. The other set of metrics, I think, your standard productivity metrics, help us understand how partners are performing with us in, I'll call it, the field, really from a sales perspective. This looks at things at leads generated, deal registered, looks at net new business meetings created through these partners or with these partners. We look at also the conversion of of these opportunities, which, by the way, funny enough, we actually found through data there's some, when we have done certain things really well, these opportunities have the highest winning rate within our company.
Hmm.
Um, a set of productivity metrics, I think you'll want it to kind of also jive with how the sales operations or the sales team looks at things, right? So that kind of becomes ingrained in the sales culture, as opposed
Hmm.
to its own set of partner metrics. And then finally, I would say would be like success metrics. This deals with both the partner success. Simple ways. I'll just use NPS, the promoter score. If people aren't familiar, it's the ratio of promoters minus the ratio of detractors. And it's a great way to tell you, um, what does the audience kind of feel about you, right? And the 60 is like a world class score. So it's important to us that how we know how our partners are doing with us and how they've been they're feeling around some of these things. And it's also incredibly important for our customers who are serviced by partners to also sort of share sort of their experience when they go through the ecosystem. And then just one thing I would maybe point out, I thought is just, very specific. I thought it's been so special in my career is sometimes doing these things, seems like a lot. It's like a machinery, but these things definitely don't get built, one day. That's over time, right? And I remember, when I started doing this, one of the most impactful thing I could have done for success tracking was actually picking up the phone and speaking with a customer, EB, economic buyer, um, you know, and that was definitely something not scalable. You can never imagine, uh, have that being part of maybe what you do every day, but for a period of time, as the partner leader, I had a cadence with all the EBs that with our partner ecosystem, and I was
Mm,
so enlightening on so many things. Uh, it helped me understand where where we are along with the partner, with the customer in their journey with us in a richer way than you could ever imagine. But it also gave me the insight into uh, why did that EB decide to go with us and the partner?
mm,
Not just kind of, hey, it's the partner doing a great job, but they're actually coaching me along the way. The EB is, hey, we like this partner because they're providing this for us. They're so critical for that, right? So I think that's stuff like that. I think can go a long way when you first build things out. But I would say those are the three categories. Make sure you know how training is going. Make sure you have a set of productivity metrics that help you become more efficient as a partner team
mhm,
in
mhm.
selling and doing these things. And then finally, how do you measure the success of your partner ecosystem and also the customer ecosystem that's going with your partners?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, when you say NPS, are you doing NPS score? And by the way, I love the anecdotal, just like pick up the phone and talk to the EB, right? That's terrific. But are you also, when you talk about NPS, are you doing some kind of survey, measurement kind of thing? And are you surveying customers about the partner, or how is that? How does that come together?
Yeah, sure. So we don't do this today at Starburst, but in my previous, Starburst is a little bit younger, and there we have to be, there some of these things we have to prioritize, right? Which is why we don't
Mhm.
do it today.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I think this would be right up there as a
yeah,
priority thing we deploy soon. Um, but in my previous two at Medallia and at ThoughtSpot, yeah, that's what we absolutely did. In is at a regular cadence, understanding how our partners feel about the company, the
mm,
support we're providing, the messaging we're providing, all those things, so we can
mm,
better work as a partner team, and at the same time, understanding from our customers, just like how we will understand customers who don't work with partners, how are we doing? We'd like to also equally understand how are you doing when you're being supported jointly by us and a set of partners. Where are you having issues? Where are things going great? It just gives us then the ability to provide the necessary support and triage.
wow, I love that. So, and you just dug in even a little bit deeper, which is you're surveying customers on how the partners are doing, but you're also surveying partners on how you are doing, as a partner. So,
Yep.
that's that's that gives you a full 360 view of.
Yeah, yeah, it's very helpful. Yeah,
Yeah,
very.
yeah. Um, Tony, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time, today with us. Maybe one more question. I'm curious, and you've shared a lot of really interesting, tidbits already. But any sort of piece of advice that you'd have, career advice on, you've had a successful career managing partnerships. Anything that sort of stuck with you early on that you've has helped you, or anything you'd want to share with our audience?
Hmm. Um, Maybe let me share a recent thing we've been doing at Starburst because I think
Yeah.
it's fun. um, is we coined this term partner 300%. If you see the movie 300, I think that's part of that inspiration. But a lot of times, I think partnering is like a metric you might track as a company. Are you partnering, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one way to look at it. But if you, as a company, can really get behind the mindset that your ecosystem is truly part of your build out as a company, that the earlier you can realize that, the better. I think just having that be part of your DNA. That's where I've seen the most successful companies in doing this with partners. It's been part of their DNA from the beginning. The product thinks about it, the marketing thinks about it, and whatnot. But anyways, back to this 300%, because I think that's a fun way to kind of rally around it. Why we came up with it is, we also had this as a metric. We call it partner attached. What percent is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Normally, percentage goes from 0 to 100, right? But in this case, we say, hey, why don't we do 300%? And what is 300% is, you have a partner attached from the clouds, you have a partner attached from the ISV, and a partner attached from the SIs, which is sort of
I love that. Yeah.
we run right here. And it really kind of stuck because it's a fun thing, but also just it also gave the best results. And we've seen here at Starburst, when we've done partner 300%, the deals that we have met that, one, have the highest conversion rate, and which is incredible. Some might think that, hey, more people you work with, the least control you have, but quite honestly, data shows that's the opposite there. And those deals for us tend to be about 2 times the size of other deals.
Wow.
So I would say, yeah, that's the fun anecdote, but how the advice would be to do this early and really have it be part of your DNA where you can, as a company.
That's fantastic. I love that one. And it really, I agree. I think it's so important that, as you were saying earlier, when you bring ISVs in, you're able to, deliver a sort of a more whole solution, to the customer. Delivering it on the cloud, critical, because you want to be able to, have it, because so many companies are, have a cloud strategy. It is critical to deliver it on the cloud, and then you need services to surround it all, to put it all together. So, love that. I love that partner 300%.
Yeah, shout out to Boom at Starburst. We were, we have a little Slack for our leaders here, and then we were just playing around in the Slack, and then he's, hey, 100%, we're going to do 300%.
300%. That's great. That's fantastic. Tony, thank you so much for spending time with us today, and sharing your thoughts and experience. And this has really been fantastic. So valuable.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it, Trip.
Yeah, terrific. So thanks to everybody else for joining as well, and we will see you at the next Ecosystem Aces podcast. Thanks, everybody.